Hi, we are here with Greg and Dr. Varun at Arab Health, and we are here to discuss things on, cellular aging. Hi, Greg. So, what inspired you to, come into this field of cellular aging? And could you share your journey?
Certainly, thanks for the opportunity to have a chat with you. What inspired me is I'm dealing with aging myself, right? And I'm a pharmacist, and I'm also really interested in technology. So I've actually spent the last 15 years in the biotech sector, and being focused on aging and cellular health. And so this has all led to the development of SRW, which is one of the world's first products which focus on something called the hallmarks of aging, which are actually I guess the key reasons our cells age. And in terms of my personal journey, I'm a pharmacist. I've always been interested in the intersection between technology and pharmacy. So I started one of the first online pharmacies in New Zealand. We brought the first robotics to the country. And this is really the next journey of that.
How do you perceive the role of biotechnology in redefining healthy aging? And what do you find the most exciting about wellness aging?
Yeah, so I think biotech is having its moment in time, if you will. We're starting to understand cellular uh, aging as well as so many different biological processes, and starting to have the tools where we can modify these things and even start to do genetic engineering these things. So I'm extremely excited about it. One of the most exciting things, though, is the fact that we've got a biological clock. This is something which is available in every single cell in our body, and it tells us how old our cells are acting. And what's exciting about that is that we're starting to understand what we can do to change that and make ourselves younger. And you might want to speak a little bit about epigenetics.
I think that a fantastic way to start it up, especially with epigenetics. I think biological age clocks really serve as a way to test a lot of these different methods. One of the natural questions is this product working for me? How are you going to say that based on feeling, right? I feel younger. Maybe why don't we quantify that? And I think that that's where the epigenetic clocks really come into play.
Could you tell more about healthy aging means in today's world? Why is it so critical for individuals across all age group?
Yeah, look, I think every generation is aging better than the previous one, and I don't know about you, but when you were younger, the older generation just appeared to be much older. Right. So there is a real change and even mindset around healthy aging. The health span, which is the amount of time we spend healthy, is 63, and that's actually still a really low number for most of us. So I think there's just there's so much we can do to address that, and that can be through taking supplements, but it also can be through healthy lifestyle. And we're starting to really understand what are the things that move the needle in this area.
Right. So, your research focuses on addressing aging at the cellular level. Could you explain how targeting cellular health can transform how we age and live?
Yeah, so targeting, I mean, cells are the units that make up our body. And when we're young, they have everything they need. It's like, there's a pharmaceutical factory in every cell. But as we age and get older, that particular factory doesn't work quite as well. And this is kind of what drives the aging process. So we've got a huge opportunity with the breakthroughs that we're doing to actually to modify that process and slow it down.
In order to fix something, you don't just add a Band-Aid, right? You don't just add, like, for example, if you want to look youthful, you can use Botox and you can use fillers and you can use all of these things, but all that is a Band-Aid. You're not fixing the actual deep-rooted issue. And as Greg mentioned, cells are the basic unit of life. If you're able to come in and look at your cells and be able to understand how to fix your cells from inside and out, this concept of the beauty of within, that is what I think we're moving towards. And historically, we never really had a idea of what each of these products or each of these nutritional values or each of these regimens were doing to your body. Sometimes you just follow what your grandmother says. My grandma in India would always say, drink hot water with lemon.
Right.
But is that really working? And so I think that now with, especially with, as I'm trained more as a statistician and a machine learning AI geneticist. And one of the things that comes with a lot of these tools is that we actually now have the tools to look at your and assess your cellular health. And so companies that, especially what Greg has created, they are now starting to use these supplements that take some of these old remedies And now merging that with the biotechnology, we can actually understand how the cellular ages are actually changing or cellular health is changing. And that's where really cellular health is, like, we start to realize is actually much more important than your cosmetic change.
Like you talked about fillers and injections. Like, so what are the key benefits of using products that penetrate and repair cells over traditional invasive anti-aging methods like, fillers and injection?
Yeah, so they're like cosmetic effects, right? They're obviously having a really important benefit because they do help us look younger. But really, at the core, it's about healthy aging, is about cellular health. And so that's where we focus our energy, really, essentially, is how do we help our cells act younger? Because when our cells act younger, we're less likely to get some of those conditions that were associated with older age. And I think this is the main priority in health right now is cellular health.
Really existing in the research, this is where research is very important. We're starting to test and actually assess which of these interventions. So, for example, does this supplement or does this treatment actually work for you? And I think that's very important. And so going to the whole healthy aging aspect, I think it's important to assess which of these interventions are actually working properly.
Like, so as per the today's lifestyle, if I come to the Middle East market region, the population is, growing fast. People are aging fast nowadays. So what opportunities do you see for the, for science, research, wellness in this market, and how are you planning to approach and penetrate the market?
The core of our brand, which is SRW, and it stands for Science, Research, and Wellness. And all around the world, people are waking up to the fact that they can age better. And so this applies to the Middle East just as much as everywhere. And in fact, it may be even more important because I feel like your environment is can be quite stressful in terms of the need to.
The environment is like extreme here.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. So that's good and bad, right? So extreme is good in terms of it. The body adapts to that, and it has a lot of health benefits along with it. But chronically, if it persists for too long, then the body can be overwhelmed a bit quickly. So I think that there's a huge opportunity for the consumers in the Middle East to benefit from products like this, that is actually going to help them, I guess, thrive in an environment which is particularly challenging.
I mean, I can't say any more than that. It's like it's really like exercising, right? When you exercise or lifting weight, you're tearing your muscle fibers in a very focused and concerted way. And so I think with the Middle East, a lot of the stressors are actually a lot more, let's say, extravagant. And so if you can figure out a way to maybe reduce the effects to a more concerted, maybe a more focused type of stress, I think that actually will increase the wellness of the area. So I think having a company like SRW come into this area, I think provides methods in maybe minimizing that stress so that it actually becomes beneficial.
Epigenetic has become a hot topic in aging process. How do you see its role reversing or slowing down, the aging process?
Yeah, so this is more of Varun's area of expertise, but I'd like to talk a little bit about the clinical trial that we've done that was worked. We worked with Varun on this because we think it's very important that you can test a product and understand it. And what I love about these epigenetic clocks is that before they were discovered, you might have to do a clinical trial for 100 years to work out whether an intervention actually had some level of benefit and definite outcome, whereas we can do the same sort of trial and get that data within perhaps a year, which I think is just a huge advance.
So I represent a company called TruDiagnostic, and we work very, very closely with SRW. And the reason why we work closely with SRW is because they understand the power of epigenetics. One of my first conversations with Greg is he started talking about the hallmarks of aging. What are the different vehicles and the mechanisms of what causes aging? One of those mechanisms is epigenetic instability. And so the instability of your epigenetics is one of the conduits for increased aging. And so epigenetics, by definition, then, you need to understand how your epigenetics are deviating or changing so that you can better understand your aging process. And so a lot of those processes that are you may be leading to increased age are epigenetically derived. And so based on that, I think it's a very important area to look into.
There has been debate about ethical boundaries of aging process. So like, what are your views? Like, how do you counter the traditional when people talk about, is this safe, or are we like,
Yeah, it's such a good question, like, because I guess there are a lot of philosophers that have asked these questions about, what's it going to be like if we do much longer health span and lifespan. But I like to point people back to maybe 100 years ago when the normal lifespan was maybe in their 30s, 40s. And human race embraced that change. I mean, who doesn't want to live into their 80s, 90s, and 100? And if they'd had that opportunity back 100 years ago, they would have
Like
taken it.
people say कि, you are playing with the nature.
Sure.
Like
Yeah,
like
it's a weird thing, but even medical advances are just natural, right?
right.
And we seem to accept new technologies really quickly. So I mean, it's hard to imagine, but maybe 100 years ago, antibiotics were new technology, and we've embraced it. So I think with each advancement and our understanding and our ability to treat ourselves and be healthier for longer, I just don't see any reason why humanity's not going to embrace it. I think it's going to deliver huge benefits for ourselves, for our families, and our communities. So I just really struggle to see a negative in extending health span and lifespan.
I think with the change that you were talking about, Greg, is absolutely important. But I also want to stress that I think a lot of these supplement companies, especially like SRW, have also accepted that maybe rather than synthetically creating drugs, why not go back to the fundamentals of the natural
Nice.
products? And I think that especially as a third party, I see SRW as one of the leaders in this area because what they're doing is not creating, like, let's say Advil to just mitigate a issue. They're understanding what is natural. How can we, improve that by, let's say, making it a little bit more concentrated, but really focusing on the natural products and then making that into a supplement. And again, I have to come back to this idea that I think we as human beings already understand what is good for us. It's just that the convenience and the trust of those products has not been established yet. But the companies like SRW and especially with these epigenetic age tests, what the combination of both is doing is that we're saying, hey, this is a natural product. This is going to help you. And here's the proof that this is helping you by aging in a better way.
Can you talk more about something, any case study on we have interacted with your patient? What kind of results have you noticed?
All sorts of results, from aesthetic benefits in terms of like clearer skin, some slightly lighter, reduced grey hair sort of thing. But we are more focused on what's happening on the inside, and so some of these things can be a little bit silent because we pick them up after a year of clinical trial. What we found in the clinical trial physically in terms of how it changed people, well, they came out stronger, they came out a little leaner. And they came out just, feeling really good. So this is normally someone might describe that anecdotally, but we've actually clinically shown that the people that came out of our trial were actually younger people.
Looking ahead, what breakthrough in the field of healthy aging and biotechnology are you most optimistic about, and how do you think it will redefine the global healthcare industry?
I think where I'm most optimistic is it comes back to epigenetics as well. We're starting to understand what our cells look like and with the various patterns on our DNA. And it turns out if we reprogram those patterns, then the cells can act younger again. So I think this is a really interesting area of research. If it's possible that we can actually start to modify those patterns so that our cells are younger looking, we potentially could decide at an age and just keep that pattern for as long as we like. So obviously, there's a lot of work to be done before that comes to reality, but the small breadcrumbs that I'm seeing in research tell me that this is a huge area of opportunity.
I think a lot of people understand genetic editing, where you're literally able to change the DNA itself. But one thing that people don't necessarily understand is that if you change your DNA, there are consequences to doing that. You can introduce early stop codons. You can introduce cancerous sequences that have very deleterious effects. Now, the modulation I think Greg was talking about is basically changing those epigenetic marks, which is actually a better way of modulating genetically how your body is able to reprogram. Because by changing those epigenetic marks, you can create different outputs. And so it's actually, I would almost say the reason why I'm super excited about that is because it's actually a safer method that still has the same type of effect, a similar effect as genetic editing. So I think epigenetic editing and being able to understand your epigenetics and then modulating that is what I'm super excited about because of its safety as well. Especially going back to that question about what is natural, what is not natural.
Coming to the end of the interview, like what kind of market you are looking at the Middle East and how you are approaching and what are your like future plans?
Yeah, so we're really excited about the Middle East and the opportunity to bring our products to this region. We're working with a company called Global Edge who are helping us understand the market and working through, I guess, how we approach it and how we communicate it. So that's our main focus over the next couple of years is to really work closely. I'll be coming up a whole bunch and just looking to understand what aging means in the Middle East and help people understand that they can do it better.
And as a scientist and a representative of TruDiagnostic, we want to be able to support that vision, especially with a partner that we think is fantastic and is science driven. And also, just as a scientist in general, I would want to understand what this area, this region, what is driving the human biology, the human aging processes of the Emiratis and the Saudis in this area. So we're super excited, not only from a commercial front, but as a scientist from a educational front as well.
That is all.